The global was bloodless and dark, as if a few splendid hand had squeezed out all of the existence and miled from the cosmos. The air turned into stale and heavy, just like the breath of a death god. Yet right here, in this small, cramped laboratory, there was life. Not the life of flowers and animals, but the spark of something more. Something alien. Dr. Amelia Westcott sat hunched over her workbench, surrounded by beakers and tubes packed with unusual, sparkling beverages. Her lengthy, unkempt hair hung in her face as she carefully combined extraordinary concoction of herbs and powders. She hummed to herself, misplaced in concept, her nimble fingers deftly measuring out every ingredient. The alien symbols etched into the timber container before her glowed softly, casting an eerie light across her face. For years, Amelia were reading the ways of the alien mages who ruled this global. They called it magic, but she knew better. It was a pressure of nature, a fundamental fact of the universe, waiting to be understood and harnessed. And she decided to be the one to do it. Her mentor, an elderly alien mage named Zorl, had long given up on her. You are a scientist, he had stated, shaking his head, and scientists are incapable of expertise magic. But Amelia had verified him incorrect. She had spent infinite hours poring over ancient tomes and experimenting with arcane rituals, slowly unlocking the secrets of the alien magic. Now, as she mixed the very last ingredient into her concoction, she felt a thrill of anticipation rout through her veins. She carefully poured the aggregate into a small vial, sealed it, and set it aside. The alien symbols on the workbench started to glow brighter, and he felt extraordinary tingling sensation in her arms. She had accomplished it. She had created a tool that would permit her to harness the electricity of alien magic. But as she sat lower back, savoring the victory, she could not shake the feeling that she had just played proper into someone's palms. Because there had been folks that sought to use this strength for their own nefarious functions. And they were closing in. The laboratory door swung open, and a tall, cloaked determined stepped internal. The hood of its gown obscured its face, but Amelia ought to feel the darkness emanating from it. You finished well, Doctor, the figure hissed, its voice dripping with malice. But your little toy will no longer be enough to stop me. Amelia's heart raced, but she attempted to stay calm. She knew she had to stall for time. Who are you? She requested, feigning lack of awareness. The cloaked determined took a menacing step forward. I am the Dark Sorcerer, it growled. And I were trying to find this moment for centuries. The time has come to assert what is rightfully mine. As the Dark Sorcerer spoke, tendrils of shadow crawled throughout the floor, attaining for Amelia. She barely had time to react before she became thrown throughout the room, slamming right into a workbench. Glass shattered and chemical substances spilled onto the floor. You underestimate me, she gasped, suffering to her toes. Magic isn't only for the extraterrestrial beings. The Dark Sorcerer laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Amelia's backbone. So you suspect you can fight me with your pitiful human science? You are but an ant, trying to stand in opposition to a god. With that, the Dark Sorcerer raised its arm, and a wave of darkness engulfed the laboratory. Amelia scrambled to her feet and ran, but the Dark Sorcerer changed into too rapid. It regarded before her, its hands raised to strike. She had nowhere to run. This turned into it. She braced herself for the end, stealing her remedy. Even because the Dark Sorcerer's palms closed round her throat, she felt a spark of wish. Because she knew that even though she died right here, her discoveries could live on. And a person, one day, would discover a manner to forestall the dark sorcerer and use her work to bring in a new era of peace and expertise among humans and aliens alike. As the dark sorcerer squeezed tighter, Amelia felt her vision beginning to dim. Her ultimate notion turned into of Nathaniel, her mentor and buddy. She hoped he changed into proud of her. With a final gasp, her international went darkish. But it wasn't the quit. As the dark sorcerer stood triumphant, a blinding mild engulfed the laboratory. When the mild dwindled, the dark sorcerer changed into gone, vanished into nothingness. In its location stood a discern clad in shining armor, wielding a sword of pure white light. It become Nathaniel, again from the grave. Amelia, he stated, his voice packed with love and sorrow. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. But I even have come to finish what you commenced. Together, we will prevent the dark sorcerer and repair stability to our global. The alien symbols on the workbench started out to glow brighter, and Amelia felt a surge of strength course through her. I recognize, she controlled to whisper. And I'll be with you every step of the manner. With renewed energy, they became and left the laboratory, prepared to stand anything challenges lay beforehand. Together, they raced through the halls of the university, dodging security guards and college students alike. They leapt over benches, scaled partitions, and sprinted down corridors, their actions fluid and synchronized. Amelia marveled at Nathaniel's newfound abilities, the result of his transformation into an alien hybrid. It was as if he were born anew, imbued with powers past human comprehension. As they neared the go-out, they heard a familiar voice echo via the halls. They can't are becoming a ways, the dark sorcerer cackled. I'll discover them and quit this as soon as and for all. With renewed determination, Amelia and Nathaniel accelerated, their footsteps ringing out via the empty halls. They burst through the exit, spilling out into the cool night-time air. The stars twinkled overhead, and a mild breeze rustled the leaves inside the bushes. But there was no time to understand the beauty of the night. The dark sorcerer appeared earlier than them, his cloak billowing in the wind. I've been looking forward to this second, he hissed. Now you shall pay. Amelia and Nathaniel stood shoulder to shoulder, their powers surging within them. We're prepared, Amelia stated, her voice regular despite the worry that threatened to crush her. Let's finish this. And with those phrases, they launched themselves on the dark sorcerer, their powers colliding in a dazzling flash of light and magic. The struggle that ensued was not like something Amelia had ever witnessed. Nathaniel wielded his sword of pure mild, while Amelia summoned bolts of electricity from her fingertips. The dark sorcerer countered with darkish tendrils of shadow and unfavorable blasts of darkness. The ground shook as they fought, the air crackled with energy, and the sky lit up with the flashes of their assaults. They fought via the town streets, leaping between buildings and racing throughout rooftops. They ducked in the back of motors and dove into alleyways, trying to find a gap, an advantage. But it regarded that the dark sorcerer became always one step in advance. With every passing second, Amelia grew increasingly more terrified that they had been going to lose. And then, in the midst of the battle, she saw it. A flaw inside the dark sorcerer's defenses. She took a deep breath and amassed her energy, focusing all of her strength on that one small starting. As the dark sorcerer laughed in triumph, she launched her attack, unleashing a blast of power powerful sufficient to shatter the very material of fact. The dark sorcerer turned into engulfed in a dazzling light, and while it dwindled, he became long past. Amelia and Nathaniel collapsed to the floor, panting and exhausted. They looked at every other, their faces streaked with dirt and sweat, their eyes packed with alleviation and triumph. "ERUK?" Amelia asked, achieving out to the touch Nathaniel's hand. He smiled weakly. "I'm best, Amelia. But we haven't won yet. The Dark Sorcerer's power has been scattered throughout the town, and it will make the effort to accumulate all of it up. Until then, we have to remain vigilant." Together, they stood, their arms clasped tightly, equipped to face something demanding situations the future would possibly maintain. As they commenced their search, they have been struck with the aid of the strange sight of normal people taking walks the streets, their eyes sparkling with an unnatural mild. They seemed to be blind to their surroundings, misplaced of their own mind. "They've been affected," Amelia whispered, her coronary heart heavy with sorrow. "Yes, I can see that," Nathaniel replied, his voice tinged with anger. "But we cannot just depart them like this. We ought to help them, Amelia. We owe them that an awful lot." She nodded, her resolve strengthening. "You're proper. We'll find a manner to help them. Together." They walked on, their steps growing extra determined with each passing moment. They couldn't find the money for to lose any other person to the darkness. As they searched, they encountered numerous of the transformed people. Some have been effective, able to summoning blasts of strength or controlling the factors, whilst others have been weaker, in a position simplest to control shadows or manipulate the minds of these round them. But they all were suffering to govern their newfound talents. One young girl, no older than Amelia herself, stood on the edge of a rooftop, her eyes sparkling with an eerie green mild. Tears streamed down her face as she fought against the voice in her head, urging her to leap. "Help me," she cried, her voice slightly audible over the howling wind. "I do not want to do that." Nathaniel and Amelia exchanged a glance. They knew what they needed to do. Together, they approached the woman, their fingers outstretched in presenting. "We're right here to help you," Nathaniel stated softly. "We can train you how to manage your powers, and discover a manner to reverse the results of the Dark Sorcerer's spell. All you have to do is believe us." The female hesitated, her frame trembling, before slowly stepping forward and taking their palms. As they guided her lower back from the edge of the roof, Amelia couldn't help but wonder how many others they might locate inside the identical state. But she refused to give up desire. They could shop them all, if it became the ultimate thing they did. As they persevered their search, they got here throughout an antique man sitting on a park bench, his eyes glowing crimson. He regarded to be arguing with someone best he should see, his fists clenched in anger. Nathaniel approached him carefully, not looking to initiate him into the usage of his powers. "Excuse me, sir," Nathaniel said lightly. "We're here to help you. We recognize you are struggling with something. We allow you to manipulate your powers and opposite the consequences of the Dark Sorcerer's spell." The vintage guy regarded up at Nathaniel, his expression careworn. "Help me. I do not want your assist. I've got the entirety below manipulate." He chuckled darkly. Sir, we have seen what you are capable of," Amelia interjected. "You do not need to harm all people. We can help you." The antique man's eyes flashed with anger, and for a moment, Amelia notioned he become going to assault them. But then his expression softened, and he decreased his head. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I do not know what came over me. I sense so different." Nathaniel and Amelia exchanged a sympathetic look. They understood how he felt. They too have been struggling with the newfound powers coursing through their veins. But they couldn't find the money to allow that stop them. They had to assist as many humans as they might. Come with us, Nathaniel stated, extending a hand to the old guy. We'll find a manner to help you. Together, they walked via the town, trying to find others like themselves, supplying hope in a world that had grown darkish and threatening. Meanwhile, Ashcroft's minions endured their look for the scattered portions of the amulet. They scoured every inch of the city, thinking each person they encountered. Their ruthlessness turned into matched only through their desperation to get better the amulet before it turned into too overdue. As Nathaniel and Amelia persisted their rescue efforts, they started out to suspect that a person turned into looking them. They ought to feel eyes on their backs, the hairs on their necks status on end. They knew that they had been being followed, however they could not shake the feeling. Finally, they determined to confront their pursuer. They became a nook, drawing their enemies into a deserted alley. There, they faced off towards a collection of Ashcroft's minions. "You've been following us," Nathaniel said, his voice regular in spite of the tension in his body. "Why are you doing this?" The minions exchanged glances, their expressions bloodless and calculating. "We have our orders," one among them responded. "Ashcroft wants the amulet portions returned, and we are right here to retrieve them." Amelia gripped her sword tighter, her heart racing. "And if we refuse?" as she asked, her voice wavering barely. The minions smirked. "Then we'll have no preference however to take them from you," considered one of them answered, stepping ahead menacingly. Nathaniel and Amelia knew that they could not allow Ashcroft get his palms at the amulet. The outcomes would be disastrous. They readied themselves for a combat, their powers surging through them, ready to be unleashed. The warfare became brutal and extreme, each aspect refusing to present an inch. Nathaniel and Amelia fought side by using aspect, their powers complementing each other flawlessly. They deflected spells, dodged attacks, and countered with their very own devastating strikes. In the quit, they emerged triumphant, the minions lying scattered about the alley, defeated. For a second, they stood there, panting and battered, however relieved. They had saved another life, and brought every other step closer to stopping Ashcroft. But they knew that there have been nonetheless more battles to combat, extra lives to shop. As they persisted their venture, Nathaniel could not assist but surprise approximately the female they had rescued in advance. He questioned if she could be able to manage her powers, if she might ever find her location in the global again. He was hoping that she might, and that she could by no means have to face the darkness that had consumed all of them. Amelia, in the meantime, became considering the old man that they had helped. She could not help, however, feel a connection to him, a feel of shared obligation. They had all been changed by the dark sorcerer's spell, and it became up to them to find a way to undo the damage. Together, they would discover a way to shop all and sundry, and bring peace to their global once more. Their seek took them through the bustling market, where traders hawked their wares and road performers entertained the crowds. Amidst the lively atmosphere, Nathaniel and Amelia ought to feel eyes on them once more. They exchanged glances, their instincts telling them that they were getting in the direction of their goal. As they wove via the gang, they spotted a person hunched over a crate, his face etched with melancholy. He changed into muttering to himself, his voice slightly audible over the din of the market. Nathaniel and Amelia exchanged worried glances earlier than approaching the person. "Are you very well, sir?" Nathaniel requested, kneeling down beside him. The man appeared up, startled, his eyes pink-rimmed and bloodshot. No, my boy, he croaked. No, I am no longer okay. He gestured to the crate he turned into hunched over, revealing a collection of weird and arcane artifacts. These belong to me. They are all this is left of my existence's paintings. But now, he wailed, they are gone. Amelia located a comforting hand on his shoulder. Tell us what passed off, sir. Perhaps we will help. The man took a shaky breath and started out to speak. He had been a pupil, he defined, studying the historic arts of magic and alchemy. His work were non-violent and solitary, till sooner or later whilst Ashcroft's minions had descended upon his humble home. They had destroyed his laboratory, taking all of his valuable assets, inclusive of the crate of artifacts. He had managed to break out, however he had been left with not anything but the clothes on his back. Nathaniel glanced at Amelia, their eyes assembly. They both knew what this intended. The man had been beneath Ashcroft's manage till these days, while the dark sorcerer's spell were broken. Now, without the amulet portions to bind him, he turned into free to apply his know-how of magic and alchemy in opposition to Ashcroft. You don't forget anything approximately where the minions took the artifacts? Amelia requested gently. The guy shook his head, tears streaming down his face. No, my lady. They moved so quick, and I changed into in such shock. I couldn't even suppose directly. Nathaniel stood up, his face grim. We will find them, sir. We will locate your property and stop Ashcroft from the usage of them towards us. The man regarded up, desire flickering in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you, my pals. As they walked away from the man, Nathaniel turned to Amelia. We need to find that laboratory. It will be our great cause tracking down the amulet pieces. Amelia nodded, her expression decided. And as soon as we do, we're going to position an end to Ashcroft's reign of terror. They persisted through the bustling market, their senses on excessive alert. They knew that the following warfare could be their maximum difficult but additionally, they knew that they couldn't stop now. Not till the dark sorcerer had been defeated, and peace were restored to their international.